Northampton courtroom today, a Westfield man charged with manslaughter in connection with the overdose death of a South Hadley woman.
Investigators say he sold her pills that was actually a deadly synthetic opioid. Western Mass News reporter Olivia Hickey joins us live in studio after attending today's arraignment. Olivia, can you break down this case?
Abby and Chris, 42-year-old Christopher Halla entered a not guilty plea in Hampshire Superior Court in Northampton earlier today. According to the Northwestern District Attorney's Office, Halla allegedly sold a drug he claimed was oxycodone to a 57-year-old woman in South Hadley, but investigators say that drug contained methocetazine, a synthetic opioid more potent than fentanyl. We're told he sold the victim 30 pills for $900.
The victim would have had no way of knowing these pills were that dangerous. However, what's clear in text messages that the Commonwealth recovered between the defendant and the victim is she repeatedly asked the defendant on multiple occasions if these were legitimate, if they were fentanyl-free, and the defendant repeatedly assured her that they were legitimate oxycodone and safe.
As part of the investigation, an undercover police officer purchased drugs from Halla, resulting in the seizure of more pills matching those found in the South Hadley woman's residence. Related to this, Halla was also indicted for possession with intent to distribute Class A substance by a Franklin County grand jury. His bail has been set at $100,000. His next court date is scheduled for January 2025. Still to come on Western Mass News, more from today's hearing, and our conversation with Assistant District Attorney Weber continues as we learn more about this synthetic opioid. Reporting in studio for Western Mass News, I'm Olivia Hickey.